Ready. Welcome to another episode of the Ivan Herrera Show. I forgot to add an SD card to my audio, so I couldn't record it for the podcast. But we're up and running. We are here. It is week 4. We're getting ready for some great matchups. We just came out of crazy week 3, and it wouldn't be a pod if I didn't have a good buddy of mine, and he's already my co-star. It's going to be Mr. Cole Crockett. What's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, let's go, man. Hey, now we have 3 weeks of data in the books. So, I mean, all my priors, I have confirmation bias like crazy of everything that I thought that's going right. But now we have to face the reality of an actual sample size. So, come crashing down to earth in some spots, but also looking really good in some others.
Yeah, I mean, I just came off a video where I was sharing some players that, I thought based off, and I think this was part of what we spoke about too in week 1. We said, what? Part of it is just us trying to collect as much data. And even from there, you're building off of that in week 2. And then from there, you're using those 2 weeks now to see, okay, what can we string together to now make better calls for week 3? And I got to tell you, I feel really good, dude, because I feel like, for example, just to kick things off right away, a flex I want to just really mention is I called Diontae Johnson. I said, you know what? Don't be surprised. The red rifle is going to add some stability to that offense. And but with that, though, I also got something wrong. I thought, okay, Zamir White, he's going to be in a situation going up against Carolina through the first 2 weeks, one of the worst run defenses, and he didn't do anything. So as one call works, one is also bound to not go the other way as well. But anything, I mean, let's go ahead and get into it, though. With what we saw this past week, obviously we spoke about how Bryce Young getting benched, how was that going to affect the offense? But what are your thoughts? Because I have my own thoughts about the whole situation there in Carolina and how it actually affected some guys in a positive way, as we saw in week 3 for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, everyone saw it, right? And it's, man, it looks kind of jover for Bryce Young already. 18 games into the young career, to see that that switch happen, and I mean, it's just. It's tough to see. It's tough to see for Bryce Young, but it's great to see for that Carolina, that whole, that the team and the organization, like everyone's uplifted now. I mean, all those Jonathan Brooks shares that I've been sitting on look even better. So I'm excited about that. But no, I mean, and I, you kind of expect to see these older quarterbacks, these older school guys, they're going to come in and do well. Especially, we saw it with Flacco last year. Now he exceeded even that, but I think I mentioned to you early on. I mean, we could see 80%. My exact quote was like 80% Flacco is possible with Andy Dalton, and it's it's just these older guys. They know how to read defenses. You come in with some pieces around them, and they're just solid. And Diontae Johnson, especially with the Adam Thielen injury, which we can get into more, is going to eat for a while now. So you're on that. And hey, to take it one step further, you had the whole right idea. But you were thinking the Raiders were going to own the game, and Zamir White was going to run it. They just got out ahead early and just flipped the script. So that's all that happened.
And same thing happened with another call that we'll get into later. But little spoiler, it's around the Jaguars and how they disappointed me greatly. But just getting into it, man. And I think that this is exactly right. Like, someone that I was talking to at work really brought this up, and he actually played football with Bryce Young back in the day too. He's from Atlanta, and he played with Trey Sermon. I'm so sorry, I got that all mixed up. But we're talking about the whole Bryce Young situation, and he had shared about how it's so easy to overlook Andy Dalton because you just assume, okay, he's just a backup. But this guy was once a Pro Bowler, so this guy's been in the NFL, has played with really competent teams, and obviously you go back, and if you don't remember, but he used to play for the Bengals back where they had AJ Green, Tyler Eifert, a young spry Joe Mixon, and he was a Pro Bowler that season. And I remember I had him, but Tyler Eifert, good Lord, that's a name I didn't think I was going to podcast. But yeah, as we look too, as how well Carolina did, Diontae Johnson went for 8 catches, 122 yards, 1 touchdown. You see Chuba Hubbard, someone that was banging on the drum early on, 114 yards, caught 5 for 5 for 55 yards, 1 touchdown. And this actually does solidify that take that you said earlier on in the offseason about, hey, Jonathan Brooks, if this offense clicks, could go obviously the right way for him, it could be a good stash considering that his ADP was dropping as redrafts were obviously going on, but we didn't expect it to be because of, hey, we have Andy Dalton now adding a spark, but nonetheless, though, the point still stands that Brooks becomes someone worth mentioning. But is there anyone else in that Carolina offense that intrigues you aside from Deontay or maybe even Chuba Hubbard?
Well, I think Chuba's still going to get 50% of the carries, right? So I think Jonathan Brooks is going to get 50% of the carries and most of the receiving work, which Chuba did really well with the receiving work, and that makes me excited about Jonathan Brooks because I think he'll have that work and then half the carries. Right. But Chuba's not going away, but he's going to be like a handcuff plus, I think. Not a 1B, but somewhere not necessarily a 2 either or a straight handcuff either. But yeah, I think the person to look at, you look like week 3, right? There's less variance now. Like I said, we have a larger sample size. It's hard to find people on the wire or up and coming that could be league winners for you. And I think with this new offense, like you have to look Xavier Legette in the eye and say, he's a rough prospect, but he's going to come in and fill that Adam Thielen role. Deontay Johnson's solid. Like I love Deontay Johnson, right? Like you can't say anything bad about him, but he's not like necessarily like the alpha that some that like these big alphas are. And so I think in Legette, I don't think he's going to do it, right? I think there's like a 12.5% chance like that he actually is like meaningfully better and like does something for your fantasy league and fantasy team. But I think he's a good option to look at.
Right. And then as we get ready to roll along, let's go ahead and actually answer some of these questions that we got. We have Chandler Costantino. He's asking, start Stroud or Purdy PPR, also pick up Steele, or just let someone else deal with that backfield. Someone already has Perine, and with Hunt back this week, just not sure what to do PPR. And I actually love that he's reinforcing PPR as the format that he's in. He's mentioned that at least 2 times in that comment, which is great. But yeah, interesting. I would say I think Steele is still the one to have in that backfield. I'm not worried about Kareem Hunt because he's a little bit older, and we did see Samaje Perine get involved, but still, of course, I think we're just one touchdown away from Steele having an even better having a better fantasy output that he had, being that he had a pretty good amount of carries and seemed to be pretty involved in that offense. But what are your thoughts?
I definitely think Steele is worth the ad. I don't think there's any question about that. I think he showed that that's who they want to lean on. That game script wasn't necessarily like positive. It was just a weird game script for them entirely, and Steele really didn't get rolling until the second half. I'm a big Perine guy as far as like what I invested in the offseason. So I really want it to be Perine, but it's not. It's Steele, and then maybe Hunt, and then maybe we'll talk about later. We're going to talk about CEH is a good ad, I think.
Absolutely.
For $0, especially if you have an IR spot open, add CEH, put him on the IR, and that would be that'd be a good option also. Okay,
cool. Yeah, hard to agree there.
Purdy plays the Patriots, it looks like. Right? Okay, and Texans. It would matter if it's 4. Well, it doesn't really matter if it's 4 or 6-point PPR.
If it's 6,
like passing quarterbacks. Jaguars have been pretty bad. I'd probably go Stroud, especially with the lack of, because you don't know what's going to happen with Debo. He's probably going to be out another week, and Kittle's probably going to be out another week. I don't think you can expect another 45 points from Juan Jennings again. So
he said it's a 6, but I think regardless, the point would still stand for us that we would lean Stroud because of the matchup, even though is it bad one himself.
And not even really the matchup; it's more just full Arsenal. But Patriots have outperformed defensively some weeks this year. Not every week, but some weeks this year.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, real quick, while we're on the 49ers, this wasn't in our show notes by any means. He is a little bit later. Juan Jennings, are you anticipating that? Because I made the video this past weekend saying that Brandon and Ayuk, and I had data for it too. It was good data. Let me just tell you that, because it was how much Debo. Actually, let me see if I still have it. I can probably pull it up. But essentially, it was just talking about the usage that you see between Debo as well as Brandon Ayuk, right? And if I can remember at the top of my head, it was Brandon Ayuk averages 18 fantasy points with Debo not in the lineup versus I think it was 12. Actually, here I have it right here. Here it is. Boom. Okay, so the stat is here you go. So when Brandon Ayuk is in the lineup versus when Debo is not, you see 15 points with was out, 12 when in, and then you're seeing the target share 5.7 compared to 8.3, which is why I thought, okay, this is going to be a Brandon Ayuk game, especially after they had announced that they weren't going to have George Kittle. I thought, oh, he's gonna feast, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, but it's variance, right? I mean, I don't want to take away from what Jennings did. It was awesome, and I would start Jennings again if especially as long as Debo's out, and especially while Kittle, and that's just an added boost. But I think if I'm not mistaken, that Juan Jennings had a 40% target share and Ayuk had a 33% target share, and I mean, it's still Brandon Ayuk. Like, he's one of the best route runners in the NFL. Like, he's gonna get his honestly, I'll call in the next week or two, he's going to go absolutely off. I'll call it this week. He's just going to go off because he's so good. He's going to get the opportunities. He just didn't really connect. And it takes a while to get into rhythm, and he was out the first couple weeks. So yeah, I really like him.
Yeah, and I do like, just like you said, the target share for Ayuk, the, of course, lack of arsenal when you had opened up the argument that Purdy would have. So, of course, that'll force his hand to have to go towards Brandon Ayuk. And this is actually probably, I think, assuming that we get that explosive Brandon Ayuk game, is probably your last week to really see if you can buy low. I mean, he didn't have a bad game by any means, but of course Jennings is going to overshadow that with the great performance that he had. But this could be that final week to make a run at Brandon Ayuk at a pretty cheap cost.
Yeah, we'll get into it, but Jennings is definitely an ad on the wire. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and with that, you know what, man? I subscribed this offseason to the strategy of making sure I get myself an elite tight end, right? And in many leagues, there are some leagues where I have Travis Kelce. There's some leagues where I have Mark Andrews. I've had McBride and Pitts, and it's just not panning out. And I don't know what to, really pin it to. But before we get into it, before I really get your take here, let me just show you this thing real quick. And actually, I'm sorry, let me go back to us and then go here. So this is what you're seeing, Mr. Cole. And this is the breakdown of ADP before the season started, right? We saw Travis Kelce, LaPorta, Mark Andrews. Let me just show you what it looks like now. After 3 weeks, your top tight end is Dallas Goedert. He almost essentially went undrafted, or if not, went for sure in the double digits. Isaiah Likely, Brock Bowers, someone again very solid, but wasn't drafted as high as the other guys we just mentioned. Cole Kmet, Trey McBride, obviously top 5, not bad there. George Kittle, he's been hurt. Kyle Pitts, Hunter Henry, Jake Ferguson, Mike Gesicki. I have Travis Kelce with a Mahomes stack, but what's hurting me is that I invested very top draft capital with obviously that stack. And this league specifically is a quarterback 6 points for each touchdown. Yeah. How do you reconcile what's happening with these elite tight ends? And I forgot to mention Sam LaPorta. He's obviously in that mix as well, even though he did have one good game so far. But how do you reconcile that with the fantasy manager that maybe is wondering, okay, what the heck? What do I do with these tight ends?
Well, I mean, first I would say just exercise a little more patience, because no one is setting the world on fire at the tight end position. If you go back and look at those top 5 scorers, the 3 of the top 5 are just one spike week random players that aren't going to be consistently, positive throughout the season. The 2 difference makers in that would be Brock Bowers, who's just been solid throughout. But again, they're changing to Aiden O'Connell soon, right? The whispers are there. If Gardner Minshew doesn't win this next game, it's going to be Aiden O'Connell, and then what, right? I mean, then it's all back into flux. Now, not taking anything from Bowers, but that's something to consider. Then the next one is Trey McBride, got a concussion. He's going to be out probably for a week. So I would just say continue to exercise caution, patience though, because over time, these people that we drafted high, most of them are going to pick up the pace, and by the end of the season are going to be up there. Dallas Goedert going 10 for 7, for 170, will put him in first place now. But if this happened week 12, it might not even be a blip on the radar at all. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean, the tight end position it's not what we were expecting. There are some tight ends that I'm panicking on. I don't like what's happening with Mark Andrews. I'm very worried about Mark Andrews. I'm worried about Kelce. And we talked about that. They just don't need to throw the ball to him all the time. They just don't need to beat him up. He's getting more snaps than I thought. he's just not earning the targets. And, he looks a little soft out there. Everyone's talking about it. It's not shocking at all.
Now, okay, so as you see here, I have you on the graphic there as well together. You did mention Dallas Goedert, someone that had a huge spike week last week that obviously inflated his numbers to put him at the top. We also spoke about Brock Bowers, assuming that there's no quarterback change for now that could affect him. And obviously we see Trey McBride there with the asterisk with the injury, same with George Kittle. What do you make between Jake Ferguson, Mike Gesicki, Cole Kmet, Isaiah Likely, who really had that first week spike that essentially has kept them as a top tight end as far as overall fantasy rankings? Not that we're obviously been seeing him doing well the last 2 weeks. Is there one that you see there, or some that you feel okay? Yeah, you know what, these guys feel for real at this tight end position?
Yeah, I mean, the Cole Kmet usage has been really promising. We talked about that early in the offseason that they were kind of splitting the usage with Gerald Everett, and we saw that early on week 1. Week 2, they started to break away from that, and then now with Cole Kmet emerging week 3 as kind of a favorite target for Caleb Williams, who struggled the first couple of weeks, I can see them utilizing Cole Kmet quite a bit more. The Isaiah Likely thing, I'm worried about that offense, especially if Derrick Henry takes off. Not that offense as a whole, the necessity of the passing game as a whole. If Derrick Henry gets rolling and Lamar Jackson running the ball, Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews they got 1 target each last game. I'm worried about both of them. And then who was the last one? Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson's a wild card, right? Like I thought this knee injury was going to linger longer based on the video and some of the doctors and stuff that I follow that I trust. But he came out and played really well. So he's got to shoot up the boards as well. So I'd say my favorite would be Ferguson in that offense if he's going to be the number 2. I think this Jalen Tolbert stuff is nice. I think Brandon Cooks is kind of washed, but I think, Jake Ferguson and Dak Prescott loves using the tight end. So I like Jake Ferguson first out of those, Cole Kmet second out of those, and then, Likely would be third.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So, and then I originally had Kincaid on this list. This was back when I was doing the notes on Saturday, just kind of like seeing, what's going to happen. But we saw how well this offense in Buffalo looked when they actually got him involved and got him really, really involved in that offense. But okay, let's go ahead and
Kincaid. I think he's going to be, I think he's going to be all right. We're going to be okay there.
Yeah, absolutely.
LaPorta, let's talk about LaPorta. That's the one that's hard, right?
Yeah, you're right.
It's the Jameson Williams, and it's just the spreading the ball out. Like the offense just isn't quite as concentrated. I think LaPorta is going to emerge. This ankle injury is obviously somewhat concerning, but if you can buy low on LaPorta, I think they have an early buy, if I'm not mistaken, maybe week 5 even. Like he'd be an awesome buy low. He'd be an awesome buy low coming out of the buy.
Okay, so let's do this actually. Because you brought him up, Travis Kelce, you're looking to move on from him just in general, right? He's out of your.
Well, the thing about Kelce is like, what are you going to get for him? Like, I kind of think of Kelce being a buy and a sell. Like, I'm kind of neutral. Like, I don't think you can get anything for him, and I think he does have value in the tight end role. Like, I think Kelce's going to be better than he has been, which is not saying much, but I think he's going to be meaningfully better than he has been. I don't think he's going to be a top 3 tight end the rest of the way, but I think he's going to be a top 7 tight end the rest of the way.
Which you don't have to do much to do really at this position.
Right, exactly. 4 for 40, 4 for 50 is going to do that. That's it. That's all you need. 4 for 40. And right. Kelce can do 4 for 40 a week.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so then let's go ahead and pivot. Dude, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I just couldn't help but enjoy watching the Commanders play on Monday Night Football. And because of how good Jayden Daniels looked. And I've always been a Terry McLaurin fan. He kind of reminds me a lot of Mike Evans, just someone that is consistently, regardless who's under center. But good Lord, I mean, Jayden Daniels was looking so great. That dot he threw to Terry McLaurin in the fourth quarter when they blitz him on the right side, it just heaves it up. And I thought it was going to go out of bounds, but he threw it right where only Terry McLaurin could get it. And my only thought is, hey, as long as this kid can stay healthy, doesn't get hurt, because he isn't a big frame Cam Newton, Jalen Hurts kind of mobile quarterback. But man, is he so much fun.
Dude, he is incredible. Like, I don't know what it is. And I'm sure over the years, like watching him, this will change. but I didn't think that ball was going out of bounds. I thought that ball was a touchdown because I watched him. I feel like every ball I've ever seen that kid throw deep. I'm not joking. Like, and it's obviously like sample size, right? And like you're going to see the highlights they're not showing, but like I've watched some college games, I watched some pro games. Like every time he throws the ball deep, I'm like, that's a catch. That's a huge play. Wow. And like Terry McLaurin after the game was like, I've been telling, like, that kid grew up today. He's awesome. Like he could be a Hall of Famer. And he's like, I've been telling him though, if I'm double covered, just throw it to me. I'm going to catch it. And like, I did. So I think he's going to keep doing it. I'm like, let's go. I hope so.
Yeah. That was such a fun game. I mean, it was great to see Jamar Chase have that big Jamar Chase touchdown.
Oh my goodness. My Jamar Chase bags were like so heavy, but I knew they were, I knew I was unpacking them soon. Like there was no way like it was going to continue like that. I can't believe they lost again, but they're going to come back and they're going to have the roaring back to the season that they always do. Like if you can buy low on any Bengal, T. Higgins, bro.
I was going to say that. I was going to say T. Higgins.
I'm writing that one down too. I'm talking to myself. LaPorta and T. Higgins are two of my buys right now.
And that's
I'm adding those to the list.
And that's why I strongly urge you. There's so many great free resources, but really look beyond whatever your either it's ESPN. I think that Sleeper does the best job though, because they actually provided like the snap count. But just be mindful that T. Higgins actually got a lot of opportunities. He just didn't connect. Like he had the one catch in the end zone that was just
a one-handed catch or
one-handed catch. Yeah. So he had many.
He had like four such close misses, which I had a great DFS day. Like DFS. But so I was like really rooting for. I was fading T just because like think about all the years going back, the last 3 years. Like T's questionable, like but he's playing. T's like, yeah, I'm gonna be awesome, and the coach is like, yeah, T's gonna be awesome. He plays one snap, and we watch him on the sidelines, and I'm just like, I'm such an idiot. I fell for it again. I was like, I'm not falling for it again. I got luck boxed out because it was just like barely misses here and there. But dude, that underlying usage is so strong. Like I love that, and he's in a contract year. Like he's coming for the bag.
Yeah, so if you maybe the guy that has T. Higgins is 1-2, 0-3, give him something. Maybe throw she had a bad game week 3. Maybe throw like a J.K. Dobbins potentially, or just maybe even I don't know, just find some kind of opportunity to get T. Higgins. But
let me give because this is the kind of stuff that the people want, right? So give me 1 second. Let me see.
While you're doing that, Cole, let me actually bring up this question we got here from Adrian. I'll read it while you're doing your thing.
Wow.
Yeah, 8-man PPR. So, which means almost every single team in that league should be stacked. It says there's some stacked teams, but I have Achane, Jameer, Kyron, and Mason. Okay, very good. I have CD, and I lost Cup to injury, possibly for the whole year. His injury is up in the air. I traded Jameer Shaheed for Jamar. That's a great trade. I mean, Jameer. Yeah. I mean, he already has. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I traded Jameer and Shaheed for Jamar. I think that's a slam dunk.
All right,
because he has Achane.
Oh, he wants to trade. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
and he has CD Lamb. Now you couple CD Lamb.
And here's the thing: at 8-man. Here's the like. Let me just give you a really simple what is that org chart? I guess it is or whatever. Like in an 8-man league where it's like, dude, everyone's stacked. Get the best player in the trade. Like if you're getting the best player in the trade, you won the trade because it's 8-man, right? Everyone's stacked. You don't need depth. You can get depth anywhere. You can play a matchup and just grab someone off the wire. Get the best player in the trade.
Right. And in this case, I mean, we can probably argue between Jameer Gibbs and Chase, but for me, it's Jamar Chase, especially with PPR being the case, even though that's also Jameer Gibbs' strength as far as the running back position goes. And he says here, too, one last comment. He put, having Mason scares me a bit because of McCaffrey, but it seems like McCaffrey could possibly miss the whole regular season. Do I trade Mason now or keep him for upside? Well, because he has Kyron. He just lost, obviously, Jameer, but he has Achane. So I feel as upside goes, he's good. It also depends on the roster construction as far as starting lineup. Is it a 2 flex, 1 flex, one? That also plays a factor. But I like holding on to Mason or seeing if we can trade him for something else. See if we can package some. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think either. I mean, Mason, no one knows. It just depends on McCaffrey, how long he's out, and no one knows. He just went to Germany to get some blood, some like blood transfusion and whatever it is, the stuff you can't get
it
here
was
in the US.
I think it was to go see like a
It's like platelet enriched. It's like platelet enriched something or other. Like they just draw your blood out. They spin it like that or whatever, and then they put it back in you. All right, I got you. I got you a great trade offer for T. Higgins, and you're gonna be like, dude, I think you can get this done anywhere, especially off of what just happened. Okay. I don't want anything to do with Cleveland's offense. I don't want anything to do with Deshaun Watson. I know he luck boxed against the Giants, whatever. I have a ton of Deshaun Watson. And I want the best for Deshaun Watson for his for my best ball bags. I don't want anything good for Deshaun Watson for the person that he is. I don't want anything to do with him, right? And so T. Higgins, Amari Cooper.
Oh, that's a good one.
I would take T. Higgins. I would take Amari Cooper in that in that realm and trade it for T. Higgins in that offense. I think that's a trade that you could get done. That's what I would do. And if anyone disagrees, you can disagree. But I want that Burrow offense. I want that Burrow crap defense that he has. Like I want that 0-3. Dude, I want all the Bengals right now. Give me them all. Zach Moss is a stud. Chase Brown is emerging. His rush per yard, his average rush per attempt is insane. He's gonna be okay too. For what he is, but that offense is going to be good.
Absolutely. And Adrian giving us a thank you there. He's also adding my depth is Montgomery, Mostert, and Chubb. Oh yeah. So my thing is running triple RBs. But yeah.
If that you can't change, you got to hold on to Mason if that's you don't have enough depth.
So yeah, Adrian.
Yeah, you got to hold on to Mason.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Okay. Yes.
At least until Chubb gets back. If you start getting positive reports on Chubb and they're like, he's coming back this week, let's say that it's week 9, right? And you have Mason, he's still going. There's still question mark. Or let's say it's week 7. There's still question marks on CMC, but it's leaning towards he's getting better. We're eyeing this return right as they're talking Chubb. Make that change a week before Mason's gone. And then you have Chubb coming in anyway and get maybe another running back or a wide receiver. T. Higgins is literally right around that same value point, 3 weeks from now. Don't trade Mason for Higgins now. That's not what I'm saying, but 2 to 3 weeks from now, look at it around that time.
Absolutely. And then with that, and other things to go over real quick, Sam Darnold looking great for a third straight game with another multi-touchdown game. 4 touchdowns
anywhere you can.
Yeah, and then JJ, of course, feasting off of that with going 6 for 8, 81 yards, 1 touchdown. His third straight game with a touchdown. And then this is someone that I got to give you your credit for. Malik Nabers. You were huge on him in the offseason. You said, give me all the Malik Nabers shares. We did a mock draft. We've actually done several leagues together. And you have Malik Nabers, I think, in one of them. I forget what the point is.
I have Malik Nabers everywhere. An average best ball share is 8.5%, right? 1 out of 12. It's roughly 1 out of whatever. So your best ball share is right around there. My best ball share of Malik Nabers is 40%. He's the number one dynasty asset out of a super flex league. Change my mind. He has a terrible quarterback. He has a 35% target share or 57% air yard share this year. He is insane. They're just going to keep feeding him. If you watched Hard Knocks, the chairman goes in. He's like, I just can't imagine what our identity is going to be if we lose Saquon Barkley. What's our identity going to be? And right then, I know what's happening. And so, in that moment, I was like, Malik Nabers is the identity. This guy is an absolute alpha. The catches, the body control, the size. I just have the biggest man crush on Malik Nabers' skill.
Yeah, dude. He looks great. Went 5 for 11 targets, just to speak to how efficient, rather how crazy. No, I'm sorry. He went 8 for 12. Forgive me. 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. And actually, this is just speaking to even how good these rookies have been. Marvin Harrison Jr., a 7th straight game with obviously heavy targets there, having 5 for 11 for 64 yards and 1 touchdown. Of course, a tough beat there for Arizona going up against the Lions, but we're still very happy with what we saw from both Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Nabers. But as far as Marvin Harrison, any thoughts there other than just, hey, this guy's good, keep him going?
Well, no, I just think that these guys, I think these guys are great, right? And I think these are going to be that, these are guys that are going to be the absolute alpha wide receivers next year in the drafts. people don't talk about buying high enough, right? Like that's everyone, buy low, right? That makes sense. We know a lot of buy lows, but like the hard part is like this person's ascending, but like, is there more to it? Is there more meat on the bone? Like, I'm not sure. There's absolutely more meat on these bone, and the same thing goes for like, I don't even like, dude, pick up like Rome went off, right? Like that's not being talked about because the other wide receivers are going off. Like what people don't understand is rookie wide receivers only need to show so much their rookie year to know they're going to be amazing. And like these guys are showing it. Ladd McConkey, 30% target share. Just buy McConkey low right now. People are talking about dropping Ladd McConkey. Like do not drop Ladd McConkey. Brian Thomas Jr., he has it. Like, I don't know if blonde Daniel Jones has it. I don't know if T-Law has it, but I do know that Brian Thomas Jr. has it. And so like, look at these rookie wide receivers. They're going to continue to ascend. Now I say all that and I still say like, use caution. Don't buy the dip because they're going to be there's going to be high variance, right? They're going to be very volatile. Like their quarterbacks are Daniel Jones, right? And like, and so you need to know like there's going to be insanely low weeks sometimes. Look at those as buying opportunities for the end of the year in redraft, and just keep hammer the owners of these guys in dynasty and see if you can snap one or two off.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and just good take there. Well, now we'll go ahead and transition over to our waiver wire ads. We'll do kind of a rapid fire, and then what I'm going to do is I want to ask you, how much fab would you invest for these specific players? Now, these are the ones that we've listed on here. And what we'll do is after we do this, we'll also go over some drops that we have and kind of speak to us to why we would consider dropping them. And the names that we're going here are guys that maybe are more likely to be on your roster that you're kind of like on the fence on. But let's go ahead and kick it off with the waiver wire ads. The first one being, I think this is a more very, very common one. We got Bucky Irving, seeing that Rachaad White is seeing more of a shared usage over here. Now, what's your take on Bucky Irving, and how much would you invest as far as fab goes, considering that maybe our viewers right now still have their fab window open, as far as whether their waiver wire window open, right, and have to make some tough decisions?
Yeah, I think you got to start looking at these running backs. This is what's going to power your season. We're talking about preseason, you have to load up on wide receivers and then these like backup running backs, because it's all about opportunity at running back. But the wide receivers are just talent based. That's why we're talking about Xavier Legette as like a potential league winner at wide receiver. Maybe like that's how bottom of the barrel we're going on that.
Right.
But these like running backs you're starting to see emerge. That's the whole idea of a zero RB or hero RB or anchor RB strategy, is that the Bucky Irvings are going to overtake Rachaad White. Not every time, right? Ray Davis and James Cook. That James Cook has absolutely stuffed that one down. But that's not every other one, right? You have White and Madison and all that. So with all of those guys, so like for Bucky Irving, I would be more aggressive with people like this that are emerging running backs. So I'd say 25% of my fab I'm willing to spend on Bucky Irving. And I would say that, like, honestly, these are pretty low-owned people in, like, widespread leagues. People always tout, like, oh, he's 78% in Yahoo. But, like, competitive leagues or money leagues that people are playing in, they're really not going to be that widely open. But the names we're going to talk about here should be, pretty open. And I'd say Bucky Irving leads that list at 25%. And I would say followed by a couple different a triumvirate of running backs after that are kind of shots in the dark and some like high-end handcuffs.
So let's go ahead and get into the guy that actually is obviously probably going to be the most common one. We obviously saw Carson Steele last week. Now, if he's still available, how much are you throwing over there? What, 10, 15%?
Yeah, I'm going 15%, 10 to 15% in that backfield. Just because there's so many question marks. I would say 5 to 10% on Perine, 5 to 10% on Hunt. And then $0 bid, like a sneaky $0 bid on CEH straight to IR, and then pick up another player is what I would do.
And then what about the hot hand? It feels like every week, obviously, when someone blows up, I think in week 1 it was Isaiah Likely was the one that everyone was going after for week 2 waivers. Juan Jennings, how much are you spending? Of course, we even went over it just a bit about, of course, the injuries with Debo and George Kittle, and of course them having to split that work between Jennings and Ayuk. How much are you looking to invest in getting Jennings on your roster?
Yeah, Juwan Jennings, I mean, you're chasing it, right? You're probably not going to get Juwan Jennings unless, like, this is how you have to look at the Juwan Jennings. Like, okay, do I really want Juwan Jennings? Yes, of course I want Juwan Jennings. But do I want Juwan Jennings at 50% of my fab or 40% of my fab for the year? Well, I don't know. Like, how long is he going to get all those opportunities? Well, Debo could come back this week or next week, and Kittle could come back this week or next week. And he's still like the third best option, most likely in that offense that doesn't throw a lot anyway. So it's like there's risk there. Like it's still the waiver wire. There's not a ton of risk. It's just fab, but there's some risk there in going all out for Juwan Jennings. So you're probably not going to get him at this fab, but I think fair market value is about 15 to 20% for Juwan Jennings. I wouldn't go much more than that. I think 20% is high. I doubt I get any Juwan Jennings. He blew up. If I'm late, I don't want to chase that. Right. I don't necessarily want to chase that either.
That's good. Okay, and then we have a question there from London Faulkner. Sorry for cutting you off there. He's asking Kyron Williams for James Cook. I thought that seems pretty fair, actually, pretty well balanced.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan in just like swapping like running back for running back or wide receiver for wide receiver. Like, I think you want to trade for like things that make your team better. I don't know how that's going to make your team all that better. I think a couple guys that could make your team better, a couple running backs that you might want to look at instead. Keep whoever you have, unless there's unless you have like the matching quarterback or Kyron obviously has he's going to be the focal point, but the offense isn't going to be as good. The Bills have really ran and really looked to James Cook. He's ran really hot in efficiency, so like it's just those both could go either way. But you could look at a couple people on the wire that could help you late in the year. Braylon Allen is someone that's emerging in the Jets offense. I'm not getting super excited on what he's done already. Like that's all great and all. It's awesome that he's carving out a role. But he's going to be a top handcuff and he's going to have some role moving forward. I don't think he's going to be scoring 1 to 2 touchdowns a week. But his comments were pretty awesome about, hey, why did you fall to the 4th round in the draft? He's like, some men watching me run in my underwear thought I wasn't good at football. Like after I was just the youngest guy to dominate college football at Wisconsin. But whatever, like, don't worry about that. And then Jalen Wright is the other person. Like, obviously that offense is really down right now in Miami. Mostert's out and like old. Achane is there, like smaller, efficient. Like they can't give him that many touches, and Jeff Wilson's looked really bad. So you could speculatively add Jalen Wright. And I put 15% fab for both Braylon Allen and Jalen Wright. But really you need to look at what your team needs. So we have Carson, Steele, Braylon Allen, Jalen Wright, all kind of in that same range. If you need a starter this week, I'm going more in on Carson, Steele. If I have Breece Hall at this point, I'm going after Braylon Allen and handcuffing that backfield because that's a league-winning backfield. You want to protect yourself if anything happened in that backfield. And then lastly, I'd be looking at didn't have that and I was looking at long-term, I'd be adding Jalen Wright for like weeks 8, 9, 10 into the end of the year. If he turns into last year's Achane, he sat out week 1. People are drawing all the parallels. They're there potentially for the end of the year, maybe.
Right. And then we have a question here from Mr. Strike the Dude Missing. He says, what RB could Flowers and Cook get me? How do I get out of the LaPorta situation? LaPorta could be probably an easy one to get because of the, of course, the offense that he's a part of. But if the challenge is, I don't know which line's going to go off. I mean, I can see why you would want to move on from LaPorta. But what could Flowers and Cook get me? They can get you a pretty good amount, especially coming off of the good game for Cook.
Yeah, I think you could get quite a bit for Flowers and Cook. Maybe, man, it depends on, so what running back could he get? Do
you think, okay, watch this. How about this? Would Cook and LaPorta be good enough for someone to maybe give up Saquon, being that Saquon is so hot right now?
Probably not. I mean, probably wouldn't do it this week, off of what just happened, but I think in the coming weeks that potentially could work.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too with that. Okay, so we we have another one here. We have Mr. Tanner. He says, hey guys, got offered Josh Jacobs, Cooper Kupp, and Kyler Murray for Mike Evans and James Cook. Worth it. I got Justin Jefferson and Rashee Rice and Derrick Henry. So not sure.
Who is your quarterback? Who's his quarterback? Offered Josh Jacobs, Kyler Murray. You don't really want Kyler Murray if you have another quarterback. I love Kyler, but if you already are starting an elite quarterback, you don't need him.
Right. But I like that Justin Jefferson and Rashee Rice combo that he has. And then to even add that for Cooper Kupp, assuming he comes back in a few weeks, and then you have Josh Jacobs to go along with Derrick Henry. I mean,
honestly, I probably wouldn't do it. Depending if I had a good quarterback, I wouldn't do it. If I had I would even have Darnold. You're fine with Darnold because you don't know how long Cooper Kupp's going to be out. It also depends on your record. There's a lot to the trade offer things because record matters. Like you would need if you are 1-2 right now, then you need Mike Evans and James Cook. If you are 3-0 right now and you want to trade in and kind of cash out on some of that stuff with James Cook running so hot, and you want to turn it into some higher, you're going to get more touches with Jacobs, end of season with Cooper Kupp, and Kyler looks really good, and then that's great.
Right. He has Derek Carr as his quarterback. Sorry, I don't know if you heard me on that one.
Yeah, if you're 3-0, I do it. Otherwise, I don't know. Yep. It's tough taking the Cooper Kupp hit.
Right, and then quick shout out to Mr. Adrian. He says, yes, having Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, and Kupp, if he's healthy again later this season, gives me a lot of hope for a playoff fantasy run. It's a 2K pot, so really trying. Only one opponent scares me, and I have this.
So, if it's high, again, so much goes into this, man. You have to think about this at a high level, how much of the pot percentage-wise is to first, right? That matters, right? Versus third. Because if Cooper Kupp is a first, that's a play at first, right? Fifth place doesn't help you, right? James Cook is great and all. I just don't know if that offense is gonna really give any one player that much aside from Josh Allen. In the end, looking back, James Cook has looked great right now. That's the one that would worry me. Getting rid of him, but.
Right. Okay. So then let's go ahead and get into some rapid fire waiver wires at the wide receiver position, and over here. So for starters, Quentin Johnson. How much you getting for him?
Yeah, I think Quentin Johnston at 15% is fair. He's looked good in that offense. Touchdown wise, I still think more honestly, there's some people that are just obligatory, right? I'm obligated to give a Juan Jennings percentage. I'm obligated to give a Quentin Johnston because he's scoring touchdowns at a high rate. But Herbert's hurt. I just don't know how much. I don't know how much longevity there is. I'd rather be trying to trade for Laconky.
Gotcha.
Is that my audio? Can you hear that or no?
Very good.
Okay, good.
Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney. Falcons.
Yeah, Darnell Mooney. I really like what he's done in that offense as the number 2 recently in Atlanta. And I really like the same thing with Jalen Naylor in Minnesota. I like those two the same. I have 10% bid on each of them. For Mooney and Naylor. Both.
Actually, now that you actually have put this in our notes that we have, you obviously mentioned about Cole Kmet, so I'll just breeze through him as well. You said just, see what the market's out there. If you need him, cool, make a run. But I want to get to Emmanuel Wilson, someone that, of course, has been thriving as of late. We did talk about how Josh Jacobs was going to get the looks, but it would be really inefficient. We're seeing the inverse with Emmanuel Wilson. He seems to be a zero bid, because, I don't think there's as much attention on him. What are your thoughts on that one really quick?
Yep, I love that. I love Emmanuel Wilson $0 bid. I love CEH $0 bid. The one that I'm hoping that I can pull off is the Roschon Johnson $0 to $1 bid. I think it's going to be super sneaky. I think league winner potential Roschon Johnson. Swift has been absolutely the absolute worst, back for efficiency purposes. Khalil Herbert is not a pass catcher at all in an offense that wants to just play fast and throw the ball. I think if there's one running back that we're how did I not see that coming? I think we're all going to look at me that was Roschon Johnson. Week 8, we're going to be
and that'd be 1 year late because I made a league winner video last year thinking it was going to be Roschon. as well as Zach Charbonnet. But Charbonnet is doing it right now.
Oh, flop lag. That's called flop lag in poker.
Right. So let's go ahead and get into, with that though, let's get into some drop candidates. And Swift is on our list. I put not only has he had 3 straight disappointing games for you, the O-line isn't doing well, and you're seeing backups like Roschon getting some more traction in that offense that give you much more of a cause to be concerned for Swift going forward. He, for me, is if I have the depth, like say, for example, if I have maybe like a James Cook and I'll put Zach Moss there, that's actually very common scenario. I'm more than happy to cut ties with Swift if I already have 2 good running backs that I'm starting and I can use a wide receiver at the flex to just fill in for that.
Yeah. One thing you could do with Swift is pick up Roschon Johnson, see what happens. The Roschon Johnson play, it sounds so weird. Like people are probably like, some people that don't follow football like too much are like, you're so weird. But like watch Travis Homer, right? Travis Homer is the key that unlocks Roschon Johnson. Travis Homer is in and Roschon Johnson plays ahead of Travis Homer. Now we're playing ball, baby. Now we have a Roschon Johnson opportunity. Pick him up, like we said. If he plays ahead of Travis Homer, he's in the offense now. He's not getting sat out on game days at that point. He's the pass catching back. Trade Swift at that point for just whatever, and then watch everyone else be like, "What? How did that happen?" Or because I wouldn't cut Swift yet. You know, like he's like right there at like the very like he's getting the opportunity still, and so you can't cut him yet. But it's like if he's like this for another game or 2, then it's like you can't do anything else.
Right. So then see if you can get him on a trade and then just wait to see what happens in week 4. And if you need to, go ahead and cut bait. Someone that you were big on as well is Rico Dowdle. So with that, I think Zeke is ready to be dropped. I mean, we're seeing rush attempts go from 10 week 1, 6, 2, 3. Whereas on the other side for Dowdle, it's been 8, 7, 8. And you're seeing the snap percentages go from 51 for Zeke to 40 to 19 to now Dowdle having it 44, 43, and then going up to a season high 46. I'm cool with letting go of Zeke.
Yeah, for sure. And I use this analogy. I made it up. I don't even know if it makes any sense to anybody else, but like it's like the Rico Dowdle thing is kind of like being the tallest dwarf in a class of dwarfs, right? Like, yeah, I was right about Dowdle, but like, what is it? It wasn't worth anything yet.
Right.
I'd be buying Dowdle low. Again, it could just be preseason take lock, that happens at times, but who else is it going to be in that offense? And I'm not saying it's going to be anything amazing, but like it's going to be as Zeke, as long as Deuce Vaughn doesn't get too much run, then Dowdle should do something before the end of the year.
Right. And we have Kendrick Lamar fan asking, do you start London or Kirk? Feels like London's had 2 solid games. Obviously, he had a late touchdown in week 2 versus my Eagles. Got some good usage in week 3. Kirk got more involved, even with a negative game script. And we still don't know what the size is going to be with that being Ingram, but you still see that Jacksonville is trying to get Brian Thomas Jr. those big play opportunities. I'm going to lean on London on this one.
Yeah, I think Evan Ingram's a big key to this, but just naturally, I mean, just generally for the, I don't know about this. I think this week probably, but for the rest of the year also. I mean, Kirk had a good game, but he did nothing before that. Like he was dropped everywhere, like a lot of places, and he was a potential drop candidate. And in shallow bench leagues that I'm in, he was dropped in some of those. But I'd be starting Drake London.
I did call my shot for Kirk in week 3, and he was one of the ones that panned out.
That's it. That's the stuff that matters too. Like that's a huge value change of that one player just over in 1 week, and it looked really good.
Yeah. And then another one, Spears, his rush attempts have been going absolutely down. 4, 6, and 2. That's week 1, 2, and 3 versus Pollard's 16, 17, and 6. And snap percentages, 45 for Spears in week 1, 33 in week 2, 37 in week 3 versus Pollard's 61, 67, 63. Seems like obviously Pollard is the safe bet there. Obviously, when Derrick Henry at first left, we're thinking, okay, this is the Spears breakout season. Obviously, this has not been that case. I'm cool with dropping Spears. Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends on what's out there, and that's kind of where the hard part is, right? It's like you're dropping Spears for what this week? I mean, Bucky Irving. I wouldn't be chasing Juan Jennings with that's the thing you need to consider is like you need to be getting something. But I'd like to hold Spears another week or 2, similar like we were talking about with Swift. But I'm okay with dropping Zeke now. But I'd wait try to wait one more week on Spears. I think he had a little bit more, a little more run this week, if I'm not mistaken, than last.
Yeah, he did. Spears he only had 2 rushes compared to 6. But I could be also.
Maybe he scored 10.6 fantasy PPR points, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. So
that touchdown.
I was just gonna say that I'm probably neglecting his receiving work there in that one. So Kendrick Lamar fans asking, do you think AJ Brown plays? I'm actually thinking he probably won't be available to after the bye.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Why? Like they kind of showed their hand they have an early bye week 6, I think, and then they're like 8 or 5 or 6, and then they're like, here, hey, Lisa Salters breaks the news on Monday Night Football. She's like, oh, by the way, he's going to be out a few weeks after his hamstring got tight. You're like, okay.
Right. So, yeah, I think, unfortunately, I actually used Rashid Shaheed as well as J.K. Dobbins to actually buy a low on A.J. Brown. So, if you can do that, by all means.
Great trade.
We have here another one. You think Mahomes for Mixon is a good trade? I needed RB help, and I have Hurts, but Mixon really doesn't seem like he'd be all that helpful. But I mean, yeah, you're for it.
I would do it. I would wait. I would wait until I would try to pick someone besides Mixon now with a high ankle sprain. Like, keep in mind. Okay, so maybe I should say this. I like the idea of getting rid of Mahomes for a running back when you're in need of a running back when you have Hurts. I don't know that Mixon would be my target because high ankle sprains, you remember with Saquon Barkley a couple years ago, like, dude, after high ankle sprains, like, players just don't play the same way that they did. He's an older back. I'd use a little caution. I'm not downplaying Mixon at all, but I just would be a little bit hesitant to think that he's just going to be back to what he was, the first week or two. I do like the idea of a trading Mahomes, though. Absolutely.
Right. Top 5 low darks is asking Kincaid or Pitts. This actually is a pretty good one. I'm going to lean on Kincaid.
Yep, Kincaid for me, and absolutely, it's not entirely close. I think Kincaid's a tier above Pitts or 2. I think Kincaid. Correct. I think there's a chance, like if Trey McBride didn't get hurt, I think Kincaid and Trey McBride could go, could be 1 and 2 this year.
Yeah,
tight end.
Yeah, and then Kendrick Lamar saying Kenneth Walker plays, maybe, but I mean, why rush him when you're seeing Zach Charbonnet doing so well for Seattle? So it just depends on how involved he is during the week. As far as
I think he will be. We don't know. We're not doctors, but I think he will be.
Yeah. But hey, you know what? Huge shout out. We're getting some good views here on this live stream. So if you're getting value, please just take a quick pause, hit that like button. Definitely helps us out a lot, and greatly appreciate you guys here as well.
Oh yeah, I was saying on one of these live streams, especially with the like, we got to go live coming up soon. Everyone sees like the signed helmets and stuff behind. We got some stuff going here. But we got to give away like a jersey or something one of these times. So people have their, just because I have them here, right? We may as well give them away, right? This Diggs cool color throwback. What's the auto here? Pristine auction, not a sponsor yet.
Not yet, at least.
On Diggs, a little bit of so. We'll hop on and throw something like that, out one of these times too, or do like a drawing or something.
Right. We have Sean Walker asking, should I hold Travis Steele? You said yes. Cole said this earlier in the stream. Yep.
Like, what are they can't do? Like, there are no other tight ends. Like, grab Komet. I thought, dude, I have so much Colby Parkinson. Like, dude, you're telling me like Stafford makes everyone great. Right, like he made Tyler Higbee look awesome alongside Cooper Kupp. You're telling me that Cooper Kupp goes down and Puka goes down, and Colby Parkinson doesn't have 8 for 80 every week. Like, I have so much Colby Parkinson right now. I'm pissed. Like, he's supposed to be the person I'm pitching here that you should be getting, but maybe it's Cole Kmet or someone like that. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be dropping. I would absolutely be holding Travis Kelce for now until I had another option. Everyone's freaking out about their tight end, right? So like, just know, like, I'm waiting for people in my leagues to like freak out because like my tight end sucks. Everyone's talking about it, and it's like I'm dropping my tight end, and it's like, okay, well, I don't know what you're gonna do now. I'm just gonna use Travis Kelce the weeks that matter into the end of the year, like I did last year. And so I wouldn't freak out yet. I am concerned, but I'm like freaking out about Mark Andrews. I'm not to that stage yet about Travis Kelce.
Right. And then just to round out the video too, we have a few more. So a few more drops. You're saying Herbert, Stafford, as well as Jeff Wilson, and we already went over that one because you said you would much rather go for Wright in that position. But let's go and quickly speak to Herbert and Stafford. This seems more like injury as well as just the way that the offense is looking for the Rams.
Yeah, and just like immobile quarterbacks, like you're not losing anything. Like switch them out. This is how people get themselves in trouble. Like you need to turn your roster over. Don't be holding hurt statues. Is kind of the idea there. Jeff Wilson, same thing. I really like Tyrone Tracy potentially running back for the Giants, but I mean with Singletary tearing it up, it's like he's just a handcuff. Like so, if you're into handcuffs, he's fine. And kind of same thing. The Marshawn Lloyd experience is kind of just like, these rookies get off to tough starts and they just get put away, early on. And they're like, okay, well, they don't cost us anything. We'll worry about them next year. And Emmanuel Wilson will just stay plugged in longer.
Right.
Role won't matter unless Jacobs goes down. So he's someone else dropping. How
does your stance change with Curtis Samuel?
Yeah, I thought Curtis Samuel could potentially be, I didn't think any receiver was going to be that good for the Bills, but I thought it'd be closer between Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir's clearly run with that role. He's getting all the playing time, and Curtis Samuel is just a nothing burger, so you can drop him.
Right. Kendrick Lamar's adding real quick. I have Njoku, so I'm also freaking out about my tight end position. Yeah, I have we shared it. I have Mark Andrews, I have Kelsey in a few leagues, and it has not been fun.
Everyone's freaking out. So like just stay calm and just like stream. Just stay calm and stream, just stay ahead. And like tight end is someone you can play matchups on, right? So like play matchups for tight ends. Right. And we can touch on that. We can touch on that again going into the week when with the matchups and everything.
Right.
We can talk through that. And then if people want to start sending you questions ahead of time, because like especially the start this stuff is obviously easier. The trade stuff is tough. Like, and if people want to send in stuff ahead of time and add as much context, like record is obviously like something we have to know, right? And then like if you're going to talk about trading a one-off position like quarterback or tight end, you need to know who your backups are. Right. And then we can also get through them quicker that way if you send them in ahead. So I don't know if you want to tell them where they can send that or maybe send that out later.
Yes. We'll have it all linked on the channel. Follow Ivan Herrera Show on Instagram. That's usually the best spot to send all information. Also, you can follow us on Twitter. I'll link that all as well in the description. And then we'll get to one last question before we round out. It's almost 10 o'clock. Well, it's already 10 o'clock for us over here on the West Coast. And we have babies that we need to get to. So last one says here from Rust Maniac. He says, should I start Goff or Geno? I got Love on IR. Or should I get a QB on waivers? D. Jones, Fields, Rodgers, Williams, A. Dalton, Kirk Cousins, Lawrence. I think the one I like off the rip is just Rodgers because of how well that offense looked this past week. Caleb Williams could be interesting as well, depending on matchups. I don't want any piece of Trevor Lawrence right now. Kirk Cousins maybe as well. But I would lean, because Geno's going to have the tougher matchup because they're playing against each other. I'd probably go with Goff instead if I had to choose one, just talking through that.
Yeah, I'd say tentatively Goff as well. And then I would say if LaPorta plays, even additional plus towards Goff. Goff at home is a different animal. Do not forget who Goff is at home. It is not Jared Goff. He is Tom Brady at home at Ford Field. So right. I would go Goff. And then you could look at one of those guys moving forward. Goff has a bye, and then his schedule is not as friendly. And then you have Jordan Love coming back soon, who I think plays this week. Smart to see it once though, just to make sure everything's okay. And with Goff there, I'd play Goff.
Right. So with that, everyone, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. Cole, thank you for all the information as we not only recap some of week 3 going into week 4, but we also hope that you guys got value with all those waiver wire discussions, as well as some players to drop, how to approach the trades. But of course, as always, we strongly encourage you guys to please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. It means a lot. We've been getting some pretty good traction, and we would love to keep that going. And be sure to join us later on in the week when we get ready to preview and go over some start-sit decisions, as well as maybe even go into some more trade conversations, depending on how your waivers are going. But with that, Cole, thank you so much, man. I truly appreciate you being part of this channel. It was fun to have you once again for another video, and can't wait for the next one.
All right. Sounds good, buddy. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Take care. God bless, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.